The future belongs to those who dare, those who will do extra. Hi, I'm Mark Croskery and welcome to Business Life Extra, the program that looks beyond the dollars and cents to the movers and shakers in business and the capital markets. Our guest is responsible for creating the English-speaking Caribbean first award-winning Salesforce Consultancy. He was born and raised in Ann Arbor, Michigan, where he laid the foundation and discovered his passion for technology. At age 20, he secured his first job in sales at Pult Homes, where he generated 11 home sales in 3 months utilizing email marketing campaigns. His first foray into sales automation. He holds a Bachelor of Science degree in marketing from the University of Minnesota. The early formative years of his career were spent working with a number of industry leaders, including YAHOO, Monster.com, and cybersecurity experts Comodo. It helped him learn about technology sales. Then he stepped into sales technology, thanks to his mentor, Sharif Shalan, working at Agile Cloud Consulting. That eventually led him to Roundcorner, which was acquired by Salesforce. This helped him to sharpen his expertise in Salesforce technology. He's also very passionate about helping Jamaican businesses maximize their potential and growth by using cloud-based customer relationship management. Today, we're joined by Jordan Baskett, CEO of CRMmetry. Jordan, welcome to Business Live Extra.
Thank you. Nice to be here with you.
Good to see you.
Good to see you as well.
All right. So, you're now in Jamaica, running this business.
Yeah.
You got it started in, was it 2017 or?
2017.
Okay, so just 4 years ago.
Just 4 years ago, yeah. It's been a long 4 years, though, to say the least.
And although nobody wants to say it, but the reality is you're a digital company. It's a pandemic now, and it's all about digitization and digital.
All about digitization.
We don't want to say it's benefiting from the pandemic, of course, but the reality is have you seen an uptick in the business given what's happening?
So we've seen an uptick. Most technology companies around the world, on average, have seen an uptick. I guess it's just nice to be wanted and needed and being able to sort of help people stay safe during a time like this.
Right. And how did you get to Jamaica, Jordan?
How did I get to Jamaica? So I got to Jamaica via my wife.
Okay.
So, yeah, my wife is Jamaican, and when we first met, she was actually trading coffee. So she was going back and forth, and I was in New York, cooped up in an apartment. So, after a while, she invited me to come down here with her and visit. So when I came and visited, it was around Christmas time. It was amazing. And it had a lot of similarities of where I'm from. Being Ann Arbor, Michigan, spending a lot of time in Detroit, it seemed like just like a tropical Detroit, to say the very least.
So you fell in love with Jamaica?
Immediately.
You fell in love with the coffee?
The coffee, everything. The coffee, the people, the food, obviously the weather, compared from being from the Midwest and the North, almost in Canada. Okay. Yeah, and it was just a great experience. So that was about 2014, and ever since I came here, I was looking at a way to stay here, essentially.
Okay. And when did you actually start the company? Is there a difference between when you incorporated and you got, say, the first revenue going?
So we started the company itself. So CRMmetry, after working a couple years at a company called Roundcorner, who were well on their way to being sort of acquired by Salesforce in terms of how they worked with Salesforce. They're the first company where Salesforce actually sold their product direct. I went there to learn a lot about sort of how I could, step on my own in the Salesforce ecosystem. So I knew I wanted to do something. Then I moved to Detroit at the time. So I moved from New York to Detroit, and that was a great place to be because there was a lot of startup activity going on during the
Detroit.
Yeah, a lot around the revitalization.
Was that something new? Let's say after whether it's New York or Los Angeles or California,
Well, yeah, it was very new, because they were trying to find a way to sort of revitalize the city.
And was that on the tech side or just startups overall?
Startups overall, especially in the tech side. They had, I think it's recently closed, but they had even had their own TechStar office. Ford is looking at a lot of investment, GM looking at a lot of investment. So it was a great place to sort of see a startup ecosystem from its sort of inception, right? So I knew I wanted to do something. I didn't quite know what it was. So a lot of people had the idea to want to start a business.
But you had the experience from, Roundcorner.
I had the experience from Roundcorner and some of the other jobs that I worked previously in the sort of Salesforce ecosystem, such as I was a administrator to a company that had almost 1,000 seats of Salesforce. I worked at another Salesforce startup.
When you say 1,000 seats, like a call center or just
1,000 users?
Users of Salesforce.
1,000 users across the world of Salesforce.
Okay.
I was the main administrator of that system.
And how did you come up with the brand name or the name CRMmetry?
Well, I looked at Symmetry, right? Because it's like, and I wanted to play on the word symmetry. right? Because as we see now, especially during COVID, there's an interplay between personal relationships and the technology. Hence the symmetry between the symmetry between you as a customer interacting with the company, and then also interacting with the technology.
So like the alignment of relationships and everything.
Exactly, and that's why there's sort of the three different dots, because in the logo, one is for the customers, one is for the companies, and one is for the technology. And there's always an interplay between the three.
And how have you found so far, Jamaica reacting, to technology, to digitization? A lot of persons say you need a hybrid to kind of get the brick and mortar to work and the technology, but how is the business model working so far?
Well, I mean, I think it's come a long way in the last 5 years since I started coming here, and last couple of years have been good. I think it's only going to get better because as technology becomes more prevalent, so I feel like there's a lot of people that were sort of I wouldn't say technology adverse, but a lot of change adversity, where now it's sort of like you're forced to change in order to compete, essentially.
And are you finding, as a part of the process, have you had to educate whether it's B2B, like the business owners, the business teams, a lot during this whole journey for the past 5 years? Yeah,
so it's been a lot of education on sort of what cloud technology is. So in the beginning, it was what cloud technology is, right? Because people here were very comfortable with their server room, the nice air-conditioned room where they kept all their information because they felt it kept them safe. Right. So as cloud technologies become more prevalent and the cost is gone lower, and especially with all the climate change activity and whatnot, it's actually cheaper and better for the environment. It's really sort of caught on. Now, one thing that we do have to do when we're working with a lot of businesses, we have to focus a lot more on change management, which is not something that we initially focused on when starting the company, right? Because it's just, we're like, oh, we're implementing this new technology to help your company be better, right? And people maybe in the upper echelons got the concept, but it didn't always funnel down to the
And when you say change management, you're talking like is it like the HR manager? I mean, the team lead, let's say, who the CEO appoints, or where do you refer to change management? How do you define it?
Well, I mean, it depends on the company and the structure of it, right? So what we see a lot when it comes to change management is actually getting the users to understand what's going on and what we're doing. And that could be at any level. Sometimes HR is involved, sometimes not. Some companies have a complete training team, some companies don't. So it really depends on where the customer themselves are. But the big thing that we've seen is for some companies, this is their first bit of technology, like away from spreadsheets.
Really?
Right? Okay. Yeah. So
and how, on that point, right? A lot of company or business owners say to me, look, we're gonna, it's like the oxtail bone concept. You got to just keep taking off that meat until just the bone is left. So they want to use those spreadsheets, no matter how big the company is, until just the Excel sheet disappears, which it just never disappears.
Yeah.
How do you convince them to start spending money on using Salesforce or cloud-based software, which you do, versus just a spreadsheet?
Well, I mean, I think that's you hit on a very interesting point, because I think some business owners look at technology as a cost, right? Something that's going to cost them money, rather than something that is actually going to be investment, where they're going to get a return on their investment.
Okay.
So we focus on, by doing this, these are the results that you will get, and this is where your business will go post.
So do you go in as Jordan and kind of have a presentation and say, look, this is the ROI, this is some of the benefits we can carry to your company?
So it depends on the company again, because what we try to spend a lot is, the biggest thing when we go into an organization, what we look at is, what is the problem, right? So what is the problem that you're trying to solve?
So you're diagnosing as well?
Yeah. I mean, because we have to start with what the problem is, because if there's no problems in the company, why are we there? Is it just, one thing that we ran into with some organizations in the beginning was they just wanted to have Salesforce. They didn't know why. But it was this cool company, it's massive, it's all over Bloomberg, CNBC, and so we got to get Salesforce. Exactly, but there wasn't necessarily a catalyst to why, and we weren't necessarily, and this is just in its infancy, we were looking at sort of what we could do for them. Yeah. Rather than looking at sort of in a very fun, because I love technology, right, since I was a child, but what we could do for them rather than what problem they were trying to solve. Did you find, I mean, although that makes your job somewhat easier, but did you find actually put the expectation really high as well, just on,
the execution, getting in the business? Because, as you said, Salesforce is a huge global brand.
Well, I mean, I think there's a couple of things that we learned, and just to maybe use some more like I guess like software-oriented language. We got into the concept of phasing very quickly, because some business owners will be like, great, we're buying Salesforce, and then Google search Salesforce and let's say HRIS or Salesforce and ERP. So they would come back to us with not just a project, but like a whole way of life that they see their business on Salesforce. When it was very sort of how would I say it? It was very enthusiastic, but it wasn't necessarily what they needed to solve the problems.
Because in my mindset, I've always thought or heard of Salesforce as just kind of like a way to manage leads or some client info. But what I'm hearing from you now is really Salesforce has a lot more capacity than just that.
Yeah, so Salesforce in itself is actually a platform, right? And that's where I spent a lot of my time, was on the platform side, because what you can actually do is take these things like you're saying, like Sales Cloud, Service Cloud, and you can actually extend them to get more out of the platform itself.
Okay.
So like one of the places that I worked, we focused on, I'm very big on, when I was taking employment agreements, I would, to work for companies, what problem are we solving, and is it curious to me, right? So what you see, especially like in the States, is a lot of sales managers will say, you need to make 90 calls, you need to do this or that. Right. There's no real rhyme or reason to it.
Just like leads and stuff like that, or put your call log in the system.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But there's no real rhyme or reason other than because I think one big thing that I push with CRMmetry is activity does not equate to productivity.
Yes.
Right? So you can do a million different things, but if none of them are, revenue generating,
you're not going to get that money coming in. We're going to come right back to that, Jordan. And we take our first break on Business Live Extra. More when we return. Welcome back to Business Live Extra. Customer relationship management, CRM, is a key differentiator and success factor for businesses across the world. Recognizing the need for CRM tools and expertise, CRMmetry was founded by the husband and wife pair and launched in 2017 to answer the digital demand. It is the first Salesforce consultancy in the English-speaking Caribbean and the only one in Jamaica. CRMmetry helps businesses to achieve customer loyalty, retention, and increased revenue powered by data sets, centralized insights, and automation, giving customers a 360-degree view of their customers and their businesses. Let's hear more about CRMmetry from CEO Jordan Baskett. Jordan, welcome back.
Thank you. Thank
you.
So,
we were talking about, just about all the expertise and everything. And are you actually, as the CEO, the managing director, an expert in Salesforce?
Yes. So I think that's what allowed us to start so small and build from there. Because like with a startup, you sort of look at what the market is and how to pivot. So since I've worked with a lot of enterprise companies myself in the U.S. around Salesforce, so it allowed me to come in and see where the market really was here.
Okay, and so well, there's nothing wrong with it, right? Every entrepreneur does it in their own way, but we've seen a lot of tech companies in the Caribbean where, the boss or the CEO is, a great marketer, but everything just gets kind of shipped to India or somewhere globally, and then boom, it comes back, and, the guy or the lady is a genius, but at the end of the day, you actually know your product.
I know the product. I know the product. Now, it's growing like almost like exponentially in terms of what's out there. So do I know everything?
You mean the revenues or the actual
actual
Salesforce?
Products themselves.
Okay.
The actual product. Because what we're seeing now through some of the influences of some of the people coming into Salesforce, it's actually getting very vertical specific. And that's sort of where we come in, because one of the things that we're experts in is actually the financial service cloud aspect of Salesforce.
Okay. And, and take us back to Jordan, teenage years, late teenage years, early 20s. I mean, this didn't all just happen by chance. I mean, your education and everything. Where'd you kind of get started, and where'd you go for college?
So I went to the University of Minnesota.
Okay.
Right? And I guess I'm one of these people that's always loved technology. I could really date myself by saying that I used to have one of the handspring PDAs.
Okay.
I had a little pouch on my hip.
That was a good old Palm Pilot days.
Yeah.
Like touch screen
exactly.
or the stylus or something like that.
Exactly.
Okay.
A little stylus, not connected to your phone. You're looking up a phone number here, doing this, but it was better than a piece of pad and paper.
And did you what did you study for your bachelor degree?
So I studied marketing, right?
Okay.
So I really, my mom went to graduate school for marketing. I really thought it was very interesting. But when I actually got into college is when I started to really uncover technology as something that was interesting to me. But I didn't really have the patience to be a developer at that point. And it just seemed like the developers were the people that sat in the room, not actually met with the business. So I wanted to be more hands-on with business. So I actually got into sales. So I thought that was sort of a good point for me because I like, as you can tell, I'm here with you, I like to communicate.
And why is that? Is it that you wanted to see what the business issues were, or let's say other CEOs' problems were that they were having, or what was the reason why you kind of wanted to get into sales, or was it you wanted to make some commission?
Well, I saw it as a way that I could contribute in a technology company.
Okay.
Right, so a good place to individually contribute. In terms of actually going in, diagnosing the problem, because you're almost a pseudo consultant when you are a salesperson. You go into a company, you see what they're currently using, you see if you have a product that fits their need to make their life easier or better than your competitors, and that was sort of where I drew the line for a long time.
And which company was that, or what stage of your career? Where were you working at?
So I started, actually, funny enough, I started using Salesforce in about 2007 when I was working at a cell phone store. I was really good friends with the owner, and he asked me if I wanted to do, B2B sales. I said, sure, let me try this.
Okay.
He gave me Salesforce. I started just, really old school, 2007, just downloaded a list or looked up a list, and I think just screen printed a list of all the companies I could find in Minneapolis at the time and started calling.
So you really you started to use Salesforce at an early age.
Very
probably
early.
Way ahead of a lot of other people in the Caribbean.
Exactly. So I started to use Salesforce at a very early age, but I think when I really saw that the automation part was, like you said, when I worked at Pulte Homes. So we had this list of all these people that visited these homes, right?
These are people who are going to buy the homes.
Buy the homes, yeah. So Pulte Homes is the largest real estate developer in the U.S. in terms of they build neighborhoods at a time.
Okay.
So what they'll do is they will build actually. I would say at this point, this is before the crash, right?
Yeah.
So Sun City, for instance, is like them. They built 5 different types of houses, mega neighborhoods. That's what they were doing. So I was interning. I technically couldn't sell a house, right? I had to find things to do.
So they would give you cold call lists or people who had visited.
They just wanted us to shadow them, to see if there was something that we wanted to do, take notes, any sort of the classic.
But what Salesforce does, I mean, yes, an Excel sheet could do it with an autofill or so. What Salesforce would say cold call or maybe new visitor or something like that, and persons can use that.
Yeah. So this is before even Salesforce, and what I saw is we had this list of 300 people, and we're not selling the most exciting of homes. We're selling starter homes. So I went to my boss and I said, listen, we could take this list, we could do a mail merge, and we could email all 200 people on the list and see what happens. He had nothing to lose, and then people just started coming in, started responding, because that was when email was very new. Right, so it wasn't like now where you have all these spam filters. You're probably reading half of your email because one half you already know what it is, the other half is spam. So it was great, and we got a lot of business doing that. And then that sort of, there's all these little sort of nuances in my life where I probably should have put it together, but I didn't because I was just so driven in what I wanted to do in terms of being a salesperson.
And after that, so you're touching Salesforce. You get your education and everything. How did you pivot even more and more into the technology side? Than say the sales side, did you go back and study any IT engineering or anything, or what kind of got your passion besides personally? You love tech from a young age, but what kind of got you into I want to provide these tech solutions to customers?
So out of college, I thought I was going to get involved in real estate development. Right, it's very, very interesting story.
Actually go into construction, start building.
Yeah, I had everything lined up to go work in a company in Detroit that was doing a lot of the development downtown. The only thing that happened was the recession. Right, so the recession happened, and Detroit's one of the first places that had the recession. So I'm working, so I'm looking for a job.
In hindsight, isn't it still like a recession in Detroit now, or have home prices actually boomed?
Incredibly boomed. And we
Really?
can talk a little bit more about that later. Yeah, like $25,000 house now $300,000.
Wow.
That type of stuff. But I was
So Detroit's a little bit like Florida.
yeah, without the warm weather.
Okay.
So what ended up happening was I was interviewing for companies and like door shut after door shut for jobs I felt that I should have had. Right? And then I had to ask myself, it's like one of these things as an entrepreneur, as a businessman, is it me or is it the place or is it what I'm doing? And for me, I went and thought, hey, it's not me, it's Michigan, right? So then I told my mother, and she actually helped me go start interviewing for jobs in New York. I knew that, and actually I turned down a technology job at that same time, but while I was looking for a job, so I knew I wanted to get involved in technology because if I wasn't going to do real estate, I wanted to do technology.
But you were really on the hunt for a job.
I was on the hunt for the right job, the right job, because I knew what it could do for my career trajectory, and that's when I got involved in with the Comodo group.
Okay.
And that's when I started working there.
And this is the cybersecurity company.
The cybersecurity company.
So this is really now the pivot into tech, because you're seeing tech every day at this stage now.
Yeah.
And cybersecurity now, flash forward now, is a huge topic.
Huge
especially
topic.
in Jamaica.
Huge topic.
Lots of issues now, especially in the financial sector.
Exactly. It's a huge topic now. And this is when, and at the time, like now Comodo is now called Set to Go, and they're a very huge player, but they were like 10% of the market at that point, and I was being very generous of saying 10%. And what I started to get into is starting to understand technology, and that's when I started to understand these different concepts of these different, technologies do this. This is a server, this is, an appliance. So I just really started to really get, anything I do 100%, and I started to dig deep.
So are you getting, with Jamaica being so relationship driven, and you're already in, a lot of these clients now or offices with a cloud base and your software, are you starting to get kind of like clients saying, Jordan, we like you, we like the company, we like your staff complement. Can you help us, say, with some cybersecurity issues, or can you help us with other technological solutions? Just because we know your business, we might not want 5 IT vendors. I mean, are you getting some of those questions now that you're established and
we're getting,
operating for 4 or 5 years?
We're getting some things, and I definitely think that we're looking at some brand extensions, but we really want to keep it very focused on what we're doing right now, because we don't want to get into the whole jack of all trades, master of none.
Okay.
So we're really.
So you want to stick to the core right now?
We're sticking to the core.
Especially with the current brand with that core.
The current brand with that core. Now, I mean, is that to say that there won't be brand extensions? I can't say that. But
so you could start like a different, segmented brand or different name, and then just have that focus on that.
Yeah. Because I think that's one thing that I like, especially when it comes to branding. From like understanding a lot more about advertising, is there's what. 4 companies, right? 4 companies that have all these different brands, but they're all focused on very different things for very different customer groups, right? So when I'm looking at it, I'm saying, yes, eventually there will be other brands that do other things, but realistically, the focus right now is to take CRMmetry to a global level.
And on that point, do you think actually you can be based in Jamaica, let's say as a tech play IT company, and go global?
Yes.
Do you think you'll have to have, I mean, we've seen it with a few other companies, whether they have a Delaware company or some type of, virtual or physical office in, say, Miami, but just somewhere, whether it's near shore. Do you think you'll have to do that as well to be considered seriously globally?
I mean, I think the way I'm looking at it is almost in reverse, right? So it's like a lot of times you'll see like U.S. brands, let's say, for instance, like a Microsoft, right? And they have a Jamaica office. Right? And that's considered the norm.
Did they do that, Jordan, primarily just for licensing, or just to make sure nobody infringes on their brand, or they're doing it for market share?
I think it's a market share play for a lot of brands, is to have these sort of local setups. But what I would say is I would almost want to do it in reverse, right? So we're headquartered in Jamaica. We may have a New York office, right, that does stuff in New York. But at the end of the day, Jamaica is the head.
Is the head place. All right, we're going to come back to that. And we take another break on Business Live Extra. More when we return. Welcome back to Business Live Extra. While many companies have tentatively begun to digitize work processes, especially since the pandemic, CRMmetry has already seen division. Being a cloud-based customer relationship management solution, the average Salesforce customer experiences a 28% increase in revenue, a 32% increase in agent productivity, a 26% return on investment, ROI, a 24% faster resolution time, and approximately 37% faster deployments. CRMmetry implements Salesforce for clients in specified operational areas. Salesforce is the #1 CRM in the world with 20% of the world market share. 99 of the Fortune 100 brands use Salesforce and 83% of the Fortune 500 companies use it as well. The demand for CRMmetry services is consistently growing. We are rejoined now by Jordan Baskett, CEO of CRMmetry. Jordan, welcome back again.
Thank you.
Tell us about the company. I mean, what's the company size, your tech play? We know it's going to be lean, but what's the staff headcount right now?
So the staff headcount right now is 13.
13. Does that include part-time or contractors as well?
That's full-time. If we go into part-time, we're going to almost 20 at this point.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. And what bulks it up? Is it primarily if you get a new job or a big contract?
Yeah. So what we started out with again was we started very lean, right? So it was me, myself, and a couple other people.
Okay.
Right. What we've found is based on our staff itself, we've had to sort of. I guess to take a step back here, I thought that I was gonna be able to just train people on how to use Salesforce and we'd be good to go. The demand said that we couldn't do that, and we actually had to go find extremely talented people to fill the roles. So, just speaking sort of like very generally around the people that we've had at the company, we've had 2 people that actually previously worked at Salesforce. We've had a couple of people.
Salesforce as in like in the US or just
they worked
globally?
They worked actually out of the Ireland office,
okay.
which is more tightly aligned with this region. We've had a couple of people that have worked at NCB. We've actually just brought on 3 people that actually used to run Salesforce for Digicel.
Okay.
So growing pretty quickly.
And what's kind of like the customer segment like? I mean, just from a sector standpoint. I mean, you mentioned say financial sector there, telecom sector, but is there any one sector that you're finding is your bread and butter? Whether it's more than 20% or more than 50% of your revenue concentration now?
I would say we're very diverse, and I like to keep it that way, especially like in the region, because I think when it comes to the actual types of clients, it's good and it almost interplays with the skill sets that we need to build as a company to get to the next level. I would say retail, we're starting to get really into with like some retail brands.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's really great because obviously I guess customer loyalty is a huge thing.
And when you say retail, are you talking about like, is it like sale of cars or clothing, or it could just be appliances, furniture?
Stores, okay. And yeah. So I guess that's the easiest way to say. People that either service retail locations or people that are the actual brands that have the stores set up.
Okay. And what's the revenue cycle like, or the earnings like? I mean, is it something where you got to pay the $9.99 per month, or are you more of a deployment company where you're going to earn a fixed fee, a charge, boom, and then you move on?
So right now our model is purely around implementation.
Okay.
So we have done some sort of support agreements to keep customers up, because I mean, being the first in the region, we realized more so than if we were like in, like you said, Florida or New York or Miami or in London or like Berlin. We actually are the Salesforce ecosystem, right? Okay. So like by being the Salesforce ecosystem, we know that we have to do some things here that we wouldn't necessarily have to do in other markets, especially around a lot more around change management, a lot more around sort of program management when it comes to a company implementing Salesforce, right? Because they're going to want to have a roadmap, help them develop the roadmap, help them stay on the roadmap, help them build expertise internally. And we've actually gotten into the point where now we're helping them on the DevOps side, because when you're deploying from environment to environment, you're going to need to, at the end, if you want to move fast, especially COVID times, no one's talking about slow. No one's waiting 6 months to sign a SOW. It's like now, right?
No. Yeah.
So to help them to actually deploy the solutions that we're building even faster.
And
getting involved in
you
that as
help
well.
develop kind of the statement of work or the scope of work with the client, you find?
Yeah.
Or their project manager?
No, I personally still do that. Hopefully I won't,
okay.
in the next coming months, but I personally still help with every statement of work.
And it's a family business, but you're of course it's a professional business. Is the board of directors now just family, or do you have any independent directors in the company?
We don't have any independent directors. I think that's something that we're looking towards, as we'll discuss later, I believe, around sort of the next steps for us. But we're really trying to grow as fast as we can. The current structure has suited us a lot in terms of, because there's been a lot of pivots in our business, right? Because when we came here, it was something very much net new. We were not an established player, so we really had to look at sort of get in where we fit in, essentially. So I think now that we sort of are reaching this maturity around revenue, around it's not something that we're necessarily self-funding like we were before. It's something that's sort of generating its own revenue. It's up and running. We need to look at changing the structure a little bit.
And to that point, as you're not necessarily getting, let's say, you get some maintenance as you mentioned, and so, but it's implementation.
Implementation.
Do you find it challenging sometimes if you don't get a new contract in terms of whether it's just maintaining the business, or sometimes the earnings a bit cyclical, or you're finding that there's enough deployment consistently coming in?
There's enough deployment consistently coming in, but I think that's also because we've built a very robust pipeline where we're able to pretty much look at what we think is going to be there through January with a reasonable, margin of error based on, our understanding, right? Before, when as you know, when you first start a company, there's a lot of hope and praise around it.
Yes.
But we're able to say, okay, this is our revenue now. This is what we've built up. We need to do this next. And I think that's something that we're strongly looking into is how can we make our revenue even more consistent?
Get some recurring revenue into the company.
Exactly.
What's realistic pipeline like you find in Jamaica? Is it 6 months out there, or anything beyond that kind of is not realistic, or what's it for CRMmetry?
Well, I mean, it really depends on the size of the client and sort of where they are in their maturity, right? So if a company is really mature and they understand technology, those tend to be very quick,
Really?
a month or two. Yeah, regardless of the size of the company. They know that they need it, they understand.
So you can send your proposal, your deck, etc., and you could sign off as quick in a month or two for a deal.
Yeah.
And get your mobilization, get going.
Exactly.
That's good.
Some is years. So there's literally deals we've been working on for years, and it's just because the company isn't at that maturity level yet. They know they want it, they know they need it, but there's other things that they want to get in place before having it, right? Because because Salesforce is, I'd want it to be the system of everything, but it's not. And if the company's not really ready to be digital to the level that,
You're not really, you're just kind of courting.
Yeah.
So does your company do you have an exclusive with Salesforce, whether it's USA or global?
We do not have an exclusive.
Okay.
We do not have an exclusive.
And I mean, are there competitors you've kind of run up on, or is there emerging competitors, in Jamaica or the Caribbean?
I mean, I think that there are. My staff tells me that some people are recruiting them, so.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, there definitely are. I don't think that they're going to get the same, they're not coming with the same level of expertise in this market as well as a lot of the background. So, I mean, so Salesforce is one of the most rigorous partnerships you can get involved with directly with the company.
In terms of vetting you and vetting your company?
Yeah, vetting you, vetting the company. You have to have a certain level of expertise. But I mean,
do you have to do say continuous professional training with them, or annual training with Salesforce?
So there are different certifications that you can get. You need to get a certain number of certifications or have a collective of a certain number of certifications dedicated to your organization in order to get going. That is 2 advanced certifications, and at this point, as a firm, amongst our consultants, we have about 30 plus. Wow. So we're really pushing.
And these are the the nitty-gritty guys, are engineering persons, or very tech people, or what type of certifications
this is across the board. So this is the business analyst, this is the project managers, this is the solution architects, this is the developers, the lead developers. Everyone needs to be certified in one shape or fashion.
Yeah. And the business to date has really been funded by you and your wife, or say you and your family to date.
To date.
So it's a straight, entrepreneur activity, family, friends, boom, got going.
No, it's literally me and my wife.
That's it. And what's her role in the business, Jordan?
So she is the COO. So she handles a lot of the things that aren't directly involved with delivery, and that's as I'm sort of running delivery right now.
Okay.
I'm soon to be passing that off, but right now I'm in charge of all the deliverables in terms of projects, time, all that reporting, all of that sort of funnels through me, as I also serve as the engagement manager.
And are you the one focused kind of on business development or origination pipeline?
I'm doing a lot of that as well, but my wife Andrea does help with that.
Okay.
She does lay a lot of the groundwork. Naturally, me being someone that is not from here, I don't know the most amount of people, right?
Yeah. But it's a true family business story. It's how the company has got started and going.
Yeah. True family business story. Before when we first started the company, we were living with my wife's relatives to sort of get it up and running, all that. So everyone's contributed in some way or fashion.
And is the business at the stage yet, or is it still a little bit too young in terms of building a track record where you're looking at potentially outside investors or private equity, the popularity of the junior market and stuff like that?
That's exactly where we are. So
at this stage or in the future?
At this stage. What is this? On August 26th, July, not August yet. July 26th, that's where we are going right now.
That's where you're going.
We've seen huge growth over the last year and a half. Every year it's been pretty exponential in terms of our growth. So now we are looking for outside investment because we want to make CRMmetry a household brand for businesses, not just in Jamaica, not just in Trinidad, but across the whole entire English-speaking
to go to that next level.
That next level, exactly.
All right, we're going to come back to that. And we take another break on Business Live Extra. More with Jordan Baskett, CEO, CRMmetry, when we return. Welcome back to the final segment of Business Live Extra with CRMmetry. The Salesforce Solutions partner has been a driving force of digital transformation in the region, and they see much bigger revolution coming. For many companies in the region, the approach to going digital is step by step, but it gathers speed when there is evidence of proven results. CRMmetry's customer base is 80% right here in Jamaica, but the company has done projects with clients in Turks and Caicos, St. Kitts, and the United States. The company currently has staff in Panama, Trinidad, and Jamaica, and is eyeing expansion in the US, Africa, and the wider Caribbean. Let's find out what's next in store for CRMmetry's digital revolution from CEO Jordan Baskett. Jordan, welcome back.
Thank you. Thank you.
We really want to talk about, that whole topic on private equity. Yeah. So do you see a role? They're the T-Techs of this world, which have kind of been a precedent, and IT managed services, I think they call it. They jumped on the junior market. The market cap is pretty decent. A nice big number, especially if you're an entrepreneur. Is that kind of the long-term goal for you and Andrea? Get onto that junior market one day as a exit strategy? Yeah,
that's definitely one of the exit strategies that I think would mostly align to what we're looking at right now. It's very important for me to be able to be on the junior market because I want everyday Jamaicans to be able to own a part of the sort of digital revolution that we're a part of. I think that's one of the longer term goals. A couple of the shorter term goals that we have at this current juncture is we are looking at launching our own applications on the Salesforce platform. I think one of the things that we've seen is some applications locally.
Break that down to me, Jordan. What does that mean when you say your own applications? It could be branded CRMmetry, or give it to me in layman terms.
So we're gonna build apps.
Okay.
On the Salesforce platform. In the near future.
And then Salesforce buys it from you, or they pay you a fee if it qualifies?
So then we build an application on the Salesforce platform, and then we distribute it digitally worldwide. Okay. For companies to use of all shapes and sizes.
So is this like a R&D department, or like say a research and development within CRMmetry?
We're starting research and development inside of CRMmetry. It's something that we've played around with for a while, but just like to the previous segment that you discussed, looking at a way to get recurring revenue is part of it. But that's a big part of it. The other part of it is we want to sort of build a presence for ourselves, globally, right?
Is this what they call kind of like the SAS business, or
definitely a SaaS business.
And is this just you and Andrew as your team brains, or you got to bring in a lot of money now to go on kind of what they call like a sunk cost to kind of develop this, or is it just your brain?
Well, we've already developed some of it already.
Okay.
For some customer solutions that one of them was actually an R&D project for a customer, and we in natural CRMmetry fashion we went overboard in terms of the time spent. The project didn't actually launch, but now we're here with this thing that we built because we thought it was something useful that the market could use.
So just from your day-to-day routine or job, customers in Jamaica say, boy, I'm having a great difficulty with that, and they might just enhance Salesforce platform.
Exactly. So that's part of it.
Okay.
Another part of it is I see, I've worked on that side of the table for about, before starting CRMmetry, so about 5-ish years, 4 or 5-ish years, and I saw the genesis of some of these great, vendors that we see now on the Salesforce platform, and what I see is that there's like a halo effect around the Salesforce platform in general, right? Once people start using it, you have the expertise in it. So I see that there's certain niches that we could fill, not just in Jamaica, not just in the Caribbean, but across the world for someone that's looking for something like this.
Okay. And what, we spoke about cybercrime, earlier, which is a big topic globally. You have some background in that. But what else, whether it's a different brand, whether it's a sister company, a subsidiary, however you structure it, what else do you foresee yourself going into besides the R&D? Any other big things on the horizon that you said, well, this could really make us a ton of money, maybe?
Not yet. I'll come back when I get really deep into sort of that, because I think that's what I'm really researching now. And I don't want to say, I'm going to do this and then not do it, because that's just my personality. So I'll let you know. I mean, I think when we're looking at what's going on in the world, especially digitally, I mean, the hot button of the day is all around crypto, right? Or stable coins, or, central bank digital currencies. So that's something that I follow in my spare time. I don't know if it's really going to bleed into
So that's kind of like another personal passion.
Yeah, another personal passion. And then also I am enthralled with the concept of ghost kitchens, if you've heard of that.
Okay, yes.
So I mean, that's something that, so it's
but that's not necessarily stuff that would be, like, say, under CRMmetry, or it could be.
I mean, it could be, because I mean, like, that's the whole thing is it's always looking at sort of what's next. Right? So, I mean, I think that especially when it comes to technology providers, there's some people that are like the king now, but and soon they won't be. So, personal story, when I was in college, I wanted to go work for BlackBerry, right?
You wanted to go work for BlackBerry?
Yeah, I wanted to go work for BlackBerry. I'm from Michigan, it's right there, 3 hours away, closer than New York, And one of my professors that I trusted a lot in technology said, don't do it. I said, what do you mean don't do it? It's 2006.
They're going to be obsolete. They're not going to last.
Yeah, he said they're obsolete. So, I mean, I think I hold some personal views towards some technology now where it's here now, but, in a couple of years, we're not going to miss it. It's going to be gone, and we're going to move on to something else.
So how do you think with, you want to get outside capital, private equity, et cetera. How do you think you grow your top line, your EBITDA numbers at CRMmetry over the next 3 to 5 years?
Well, I mean, it's just going to be...
Besides just core, or is core the answer?
Well, I think core is going to be a huge answer, because I think we just scratched the surface here.
Really? In Jamaica?
In Jamaica. I think in Jamaica we have just started to scratch the surface.
And why do you think that? Is it that data is just becoming, or big data is becoming a more big and bigger topic with board of directors and CEOs?
Because I think people are just here getting it. So, like you said, it's a 90... something was it 98, or actually, excuse me now, most recent 99 of the Fortune 100 use Salesforce, 83% of the Fortune 500 use Salesforce, and we're just literally coming to introduce Salesforce to Jamaica. I think it's going to be huge here.
So tell us, in Jamaica though, what are you seeing when you actually, whether you go to large companies, mid-sized companies, what actually are they using before you get Salesforce in? Just a typical day or on average?
A lot of them, it's one-off systems that someone built for them custom.
Oh, so it is a proprietary system?
There could be a proprietary system, but I mean, the great deal of it when we're going to the department level or something is it's all spreadsheet. because they don't really have a competent way to store all this information digitally.
And so are you just shooting or loading that spreadsheet into Salesforce, or is it not as simple as that?
It's not as simple as that because we want to see process improvement.
Okay. So what are the, you see this big upside, what are the challenges though that you're facing in those kind of implementations or bringing in those contracts?
Well, the biggest challenge is sort of organizational understanding, right? So to take a step back here, I would say a lot of companies are highly siloed in Jamaica, where one department doesn't know what the other department is doing, and there may be duplicate efforts. So what we're actually trying to do is sort of slash these silos, give them a complete view of their customers, get them all on the same page, right? So what you'll see in some organizations here is there's the concept of marketing qualified lead, right? And sales qualified lead, and they don't really have that. So marketing thinks that they're doing a great job with the leads that they're creating because these are people that said they want to sign up for something, right? But then when they actually might get to the sales department, they might not be qualified. So there's not that sort of feedback of this one is good, this one's not. So like so the organization collectively can rise. It's more or less like back and forth, and whatnot.
And have you had to create almost like a consultant or advisory side inside of CRMmetry, just based on, I've seen a lot of business owners where they, as you said, they sign the contract quickly. We really want this brand, we want this software. It sounds great. They kind of bounce it off a few of their friends or other business owners. But really, to get it implemented is difficult. Sometimes they, the persons who are doing the day-to-day work, to take on this extra effort to install it can be difficult. Have you almost had to bring on people who just focus on installations and go in and not just train the staff, but actually make it happen?
Yeah, I mean that's part of what we do on the day-to-day right now is go in, sort of gauge where you are. Right, so we have a zillion questions we ask to understand sort of where are you now, what are you looking for, right? Because I think one thing that we push is just rapid transparency between what we're doing, what you're expecting, and what we're going to deliver.
Are you seconding any of the staff to some of these companies, like for also just to earn additional revenue?
What, I guess,
like, law firms might do it from time to time, but basically, the business really likes your team or staff, and they say, hey, Jordan, I want to hire 2 of your staff for a year. Are you finding some of your staff are being, poached in a positive way? Might earn you some more revenue?
There's definitely, it's like, again, we have a great talent base. Like, so for instance, one of our customers is very partial to one of our business analysts because she's world-class business analyst that happens to be in Jamaica.
And is this like, when you say business analyst, is it like almost like an intelligence officer, like gets the data and crunches it and everything?
It's more or less
deeper than that.
It's more or less they're actually helping the business to understand what their business process is. Okay. And breaking down that and analyzing it for the business, because that's essentially what we do most of is sort of process analysis.
So it's much deeper than just admin.
Much deeper than admin.
Just operations.
Add a field, do a calculation here. It's very much interrogate what the process of the businesses are.
In a way, you kind of have a little bit of a McKinsey there, get into efficiency and so.
A little bit. Yeah. But I think where we sort of draw the line is sort of around, we're not going in to do a complete
business overview.
Exactly.
And tell me about, you mentioned Trinidad and Tobago. Obviously, Trinidad and Barbados always jump on the radar as a Jamaican company. But you mentioned like Panama, other places. How do you view yourself competing in those places against, the big IT companies or the local stalwarts in those countries, as a Jamaican business?
Well, I mean, it's all in how you frame it, to be honest with you. I think for me personally, this was the hardest market I've ever broken into. I've done business around the world, but it's very relationship oriented in Jamaica. Very relationship oriented. Yeah.
Yeah, really. And those markets you mentioned, like especially Panama, going back into the US and some other countries. Physical office or just, as your cloud base, is it just finding a local partner and doing a JV, or what's the business model that you want to do in each country?
So I guess, and that's a much larger conversation is around, what is the new office?
Give us a little tips into CRMmetry going forward.
It's going to be our office, but I think our office looks very different in the next couple of years. So I think
Meaning, like a just totally virtual, or do you think in each country you're going to have a local partner?
I think we'll have staff in almost all the countries that we do business in, just because of convenience. People want to live where they want to live, and you know, I'm not against that. You know, I've worked remotely here for a long time, even with U.S. clients.
Yeah.
I don't see the negative effect of it. I do understand the need for a face, and I do understand people wanting to have a local presence. So we're definitely, you know, hoping to fulfill that. But in terms of like having an office where we all meet on a Monday and have coffee, I don't think we're going to have that.
I guess you probably do that on Teams or Zoom, etc.
Exactly.
Where, you know, as a last thing really, Jordan, you know, I mean, clearly you're an entrepreneur, you're passionate about the business, but really and truly, where, besides, you mentioned going global, but where do you really want to see, you know, where do you and Andrea want to see this company in 3 to 5 years, you know, besides raising more capital, going on the stock market potentially, but where really do you want to see CRMmetry placed, you know, in 5 years from now?
I want it to be like just how you said, you're McKenzie a little bit. I want to make CRMmetry that adverb. Oh, you're doing what CRMmetry is doing, or you're looking at it, right? Because, you know, quite honestly,
you want to become a catchphrase.
Yeah, I want people to really, and I think that's what we're doing a lot of attracting, right? Because you look at the world in general, there's a lot of unrest, especially when it comes to employment. Right? Like you see, no one wants to work at a lot of the quick service restaurants anymore because it's just not beneficial to them. You see a lot of millennials that don't want to go back to their office because that's just not how they want to work. We want to fill that void for people in our space, so they want to come work with us. You know, and I think that's going to be our fastest way to grow.
So you want to employ a lot more people as well?
A lot more people. And a lot more people in this space. And as you said, as we look at brand extensions in other spaces, because I think the whole rewriting of the employment relationship is happening as a part of this industrial revolution.
So it's really looking much further out.
Much further out, and just looking at like what the relationship is between a business and its employees.
It's great. Jordan, thanks for coming on Business Live Extra.
Thank you very much.
It's a pleasure having you.
Thanks
great.
for having me.
That's it for another edition of Business Live Extra. Remember, success is not final. Failure is not fatal. It is a courage to continue that counts. We've been talking with Jordan Baskett, CEO of CRMmetry. Don't forget, you can watch us online at cvm.com/videos/Business Live Extra. Thanks for joining us.